years before the NES, Nintendo had a pretty successful run of arcade games including Donkey Kong, Popeye, and this game. I never spent any time in arcades as a kid or around arcade machines much, but this game always stood out to me mainly because of the Atari 2600 version. I had friends who lived down the street who had it. I think my cousins had it. Also, there was a very memorable, kind of wacky commercial for Atari home ports that was on television.
Something's coming up the plumbing, poor Luigi's in a bind. Giant turtles out to get him, creepy crabs are right behind. Fighter flies, cheaper shites, they're all coming out the pipes.
Mario, where are you?
It's Atari Mario Brothers with Mario from Donkey Kong, his brother Luigi, and lots of crazy creatures. And it's twice the fun when two play at once, because you need all the help you can get.
Mario, where are you?
Mario Brothers, new from Atari.
The gameplay of the original Mario Brothers is pretty simple. Stun the oncoming enemies by hitting the platform they're on from below, then kick them off that platform. The crabs require 2 hits, the flies jump so you have to time your hits, and the ice monsters shatter when they are hit. However, they will freeze platforms if you are not quick about dispatching them. If you take too long, fireballs appear which make the game trickier. Every few stages, you get a bonus game where you collect coins for more points. This is an old school arcade game, so points do matter. Like Donkey Kong, it came out on a number of non-Nintendo systems before they made hardware of their own. The ports to the Atari consoles are all pretty interesting to me because Nintendo licensed out the game, which features the duo who'd become 2 of their biggest stars, to a company that became a competitor a few short years later. It's especially unique because Atari handled these ports themselves. As you can imagine, I've played the 2600 version quite a bit. It and the Atari 7800 versions are quite good, but neither are what we're here to talk about this time around. The game we really want to look into is the NES version, which saw a release in the US in 1986 under the Arcade Classic series of the NES Black Box games. In Japan, the game was released a little less than 3 years prior on the Famicom. It's not an arcade perfect port, but is certainly the best looking one out there. The Atari 8-bit computer versions have a few features that were left out of this version, the little introduction scenes for each monster, and the falling icicle hazards that were in later stages. Things Nintendo chose to leave out for space here, but none of those games look anywhere as good as the NES version. Another thing I much prefer about the NES version to any other that includes the arcades is the sound. The sound of Mario and Luigi on the many different versions can be very annoying. The 7800 version is absolutely cringeworthy by comparison. Most versions seem to have similar dynamics to their gameplay. You have to aim your jump slightly past the end of the platforms, and the movement is a bit slippery as well. As far as the home ports I've played, the NES version has the most slippery movement of them all. Imagine running at a full head of steam. It's not exactly easy to stop on a dime in real life. This trait has found its way into other Mario games after this for years. It takes a little bit of getting used to here, and if you're not careful about it, it can lead to certain death. I always love the little bit of animation, the way Mario changes direction in mid-run. You skid quite a bit more here, but it's similar to the way Mario moves in the original Super Mario Bros. As well. Another thing that kind of stands out to me about the game are the enemies you encounter right from the start. They're known as shell creepers here, these giant turtles, but they sure look a hell of a lot like Koopa Troopers from Super Mario Bros. A lot of people have decided on some kind of headcanon that this is the first encounter with the armies of Bowser trying to sneak into our world, and this is what leads our heroes to the Mushroom Kingdom in the first place. It makes a lot of sense, but for all we know, there just might be big mutant turtles in the sewers of New York. Since I mentioned a few other versions, here's one more. Included with the Super Mario Advance games is a take on the game called Mario Bros. Classic. It's not so much a port as an upgraded version of the battle mode from Super Mario Bros. 3 and given a single player mode. It's neat, but it's more filler than anything else. I always felt it was kind of a shame that we haven't seen some better, more arcade-perfect ports of this and the Donkey Kong games ever released by Nintendo. I don't know why they haven't done such a thing. I kind of think it's leaving money on the table. But anyway, what's your favorite single-screen arcade game from the days of past? I think you can tell which one's a favorite of mine. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.